Okay, so today is the day, guys. I've got the new centerpiece fish for the Epiphyte only aquarium that you guys voted on. Can't wait to get them out of this bag and into the tank. Let's get them acclimating. So I am going to turn off the lights for the aquarium just so these guys have a super low stress introduction into the tank. So we've got our new fish sitting and temperature acclimating here. I'm going to start acclimating them to the water. But as you can probably see, quite a bit has changed about the aquarium, and we're going to get to all of that after we introduce our new fish. But before any of that, I just want to do a little bit of a recap, take you guys back to the beginning so we can see how this all started and how we got to where we are now. I'm Lucas and welcome to Terracotta Aquarium. Let's get started.
I started this scape with a particular fish in mind, Corydoras. I wanted to make a perfect home for them, with a sand-only substrate and lots of overhanging plants to give them shelter and make them feel safe. This led me to the idea of a dual-island epiphyte-only aquarium. The substrate would just be sand and wouldn't have any plants growing out of it. The plants would all be epiphytes and would be attached to the spiderwood islands. This is a great aquarium for beginners, because you only need one ingredient for the substrate, and epiphyte plants don't need a whole lot of maintenance. Before starting the scape, I set up all of the equipment, including a filter, heater, and 2 spotlights. You can find links to all of the equipment used in this build down in the description. The tank that I'm using is a 20-gallon long from UNS. The hardscape that I used was pretty simple, just 3 pieces of spiderwood and 5 lava rocks of varying sizes. It took me a while to get the hardscape exactly how I wanted it, but when I was happy, I glued it all together with cotton pads and liquid superglue. After it was dry, I tossed in a layer of play sand. It has a nice golden color and would make for a perfect playground for the Corydoras. I filled up the tank to start leaching some tannins out of the wood. Before starting to plant, I drained most of the water out of the tank. It would end up taking a few weeks and a couple more water changes before the tannins dissipated. For the plants, I used 2 huge mother pots of Java fern, 3 pots of mini bolbitis, and 2 clumps of bucephalandra. I took my time arranging these and managed to get all of them firmly wedged in without using any superglue. Then I filled the tank back up and added some beneficial bacteria to get a cycle started. I also added in a few different types of floating plants. Just a couple, because I knew that over time, they would start taking over the tank. About a week later, the tank was still pretty tanned, so I did another water change and also added in a few more epiphytes. Just a couple pots of Anubias lanceolata to fill in some of the lower spaces in the tank. Then I got ready to add the first fish. I caught out a group of 9 porkchop rasboras from a tank that I was in the process of breaking down. I acclimated them and then added them into their new home. It was really exciting to see fish in the tank, and their orange color brought a nice pop to the aquarium. I tested the water the morning after adding them and continued to do so for the next few days. A week or so later, I was ready to add the Corydoras. I went out to my local shop and brought back a group of 6 panda cories. I acclimated them and added them into the aquarium. I also added a few more floating plants, just because I had a bunch of extras from other aquariums that I didn't know what to do with. It was really rewarding to see the cories in the aquarium that I set up with them in mind. I could tell that they really loved the substrate and the shaded areas. They were really active, and I knew that I succeeded in making them a perfect habitat. Throughout this whole process, I was getting input from you guys, the community, on what type of fish I should add as a centerpiece. We had some great ideas, but I think that we landed on something that is also really well suited to this tank. Something that loves a sandy substrate and lots of shaded and protected areas.
Okay guys, so that brings us to today. And the fish that you guys voted for are a pair of Bolivian rams. They just finished acclimating, so let's get them into the tank. So I'm just going to use this small net to get them out of the bag here. So it's just the 2 of them. Oh man, I am so excited for this. All right, here is the first one. and the other. So it's actually now the next day. Sorry, I totally forgot to turn on the aquarium lights when I was adding the fish, so I hope that you guys could at least get an idea of what was going on there. But after that, I decided to just leave the lights off, let the fish just settle in overnight, and now I'm checking on them here the next morning, and it seems like they're doing really well. I did keep an eye on them last night, just with the lights off, just from the ambient light in the room here, and they did travel like quite a ways to get to me, so that's another reason that I wanted to just make sure that they have a nice low stress time in settling in. But you might be able to see them. They're right in the center of the tank here. They are a little bit wary of me. I have noticed them, like whenever I'm near the tank, they do watch me, which is really interesting. They seem like a really smart little fish. And they're definitely still settling in, but it seems like they're doing pretty well. For the first few hours of them being in here, they were sticking together like a pair, going everywhere. But now as they've settled down a little bit more, they're kind of going their own way, doing sort of whatever they please. And as far as I can tell, they look pretty healthy. I was a little bit concerned about maybe some ick or any like stress-related disease, but I'm not seeing any signs of that thus far. So I think that we're in the clear. I just tossed a little bit of food into the tank for all of the other fish, but I did just like a hair more than I normally would to see if the rams would go for it. And I think that they are pecking, at some of the food that I've added, but I haven't seen them really going for it. So I think they're still a little bit nervous, but I have some specific pellets coming in the mail in just an hour or so for them. So I'll add those in a little bit later and see, if they go for them. But I'm really excited to have these fish in the tank. I feel like they add a really cool element to it. They're kind of like a surprise fish. Like if you spend some time watching the aquarium, first you see all of the plants above, which I'll get to, and then floating plants within, you see the pork chop rasporas, then you see the cories. Then if you look a little bit longer, then you see the rams kind of come into the scene. So it's a really exciting aquarium. I'm really happy with how it's all come together. But in addition to these new fish, you can see that a lot has changed, especially above the aquarium. So I took your guys' advice and I did decide to add some terrestrial plants to the top of the tank. So as you can see, I've got a couple vines of pothos here that are just wrapped around the lights, and they just have roots sort of submerged just right in the surface of the water. And I can already see in a couple places they are getting some new growth, so that's great. And right in the center here, I added these kind of bundles of prayer plant and spider plant. And let me get one out here. I can show you how they look. So they're pretty easy to add and remove, but basically I just have them sort of attached to this wire here. I wrapped a little bit of filter floss and then a little bit of cotton thread just to make the bundle. And then I kind of twisted it together with this piece of wire that I can just sort of sit on the back of the tank. And they fit in, really well. Their roots are like just barely submerged and the leaves stay above the surface. So it's a nice little easy DIY way to just make some little plant holders. But I hope you guys like it. I think it looks really cool. Adds this whole extra dimension to the tank. And I don't know if you can see in this shot, but I also added some plants over here. I did a little bit of rearranging in my whole studio. And now this sort of central point in the studio feels like very green and naturey. And a large part of that is because of these plants. So I'm really happy with it. I hope you guys like it. I think it's super cool. But you can also see that here on the top of the tank, these kind of patches of red root floaters are doing really, really well. And they really make this come to life too, because they match the kind of red underside of the leaves of the prayer plants. So I'm happy that these are doing so well. It's nice to have this like patch here. It's super cool. But overall, this aquarium has been doing really well. I think it's coming up on a couple months now that it's been up and running. And it's been growing in super steady. All of the Java fern looks really nice and healthy. And all of the Anubias and everything is just slowly chugging along. I think a little bit of the smaller pieces of Bucephalandra have melted away. But besides that, all of the plants are doing super well. And I think it's really successful in that it's made such a good habitat for the Corydoras, the rams, and also the pork chops. I think with the shaded nature of it, all of this overhanging plant cover, they make for a really safe space for all of these fish. So I'm really happy that we've achieved something so interesting and beautiful. And currently, it's one of my favorite tanks in my whole studio because it's so much fun to watch. And it just feels so successful in terms of the fish behavior that I get to see and the just overall success of the tank. But in addition to the rams, all of the fish in here have been doing excellent. The pork chop rasboras, you can see they're right here in a little clump because I'm over here. They always sort of go to the opposite side of me when I'm sitting near the tank, but they're doing really well. I haven't really noticed any more breeding behavior from them, but they, I think, really love the darker nature of the tank. In a couple of other tanks that I've had these fish in, they've spent most of their time kind of in a back corner away from everything. So it's really nice to see them feeling a little bit more confident in this setup here and being more out and open. And their orange coloration does add a lot against the backdrop of all of this green. And the panda cories have been so much fun to watch. They have just awesome behavior. They are just crazy little guys. I'll see them, going all over the sand, but I'll also see them poking their heads out of the central islands of epiphytes. They just go all over the place, just foraging constantly. It seems like they have just boundless energy. And it is funny when I do see them slow down, because sometimes they'll slow down in a little group. Sometimes they'll be just 3 of them together on top of a rock, just having a little safety meeting. But I love Corydoras, and these guys especially. I've probably said before many times on my channel that Corydoras are some of my favorite fish, so I'm really happy to have them in here. And apparently Corydoras and rams really do coexist really well. So I think this community is perfectly set up for success. And I'm really excited to keep watching the rams over the next few days, even the next few months, just to see how they really settle into here and the behaviors that start emerging from them. Because these are the first cichlids that I've ever kept. Rams are a dwarf cichlid species. Apparently they are related to Geophagus, or maybe in that genus. So they are a type of earth eater, and the substrate that we've laid in here is basically perfect for them. Just a nice sandy bed for them to forage in. And the kind of natural caves underneath the Epiphyte islands are going to be perfect for them, for their own little territories, potential breeding, and that kind of thing. Because hopefully we do have a male-female pair here. At the shop, they said that they were 70% sure that it was a male-female and not 2 males. So I'll take those odds. I do trust the fish shop where I got these guys from. They have some good people there who are really good at sexing fish. So, fingers crossed that we have a little pair. It would be pretty cool to have some breeding for them, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let them settle in and enjoy that process of watching them find their own space in here. And I think this aquarium is kind of reaching that point where it's probably slightly overstocked with the introduction of these rams, because this is a 20-gallon long. But as the fish grow and everything, I'm not too concerned because I have plans to be setting up some bigger tanks in the next few months. I have plans to set up a couple 40 gallons and a larger 55-gallon. So if I need to move some of the fish out of here, it's not a huge problem. I can make that work. But overall, this has been such a fun project. It's been really fun for me to do this really slowly, step by step, with all of you guys involved in choosing our centerpiece fish, giving me feedback on it throughout the whole process. So thank you guys so much for being a part of it. But I enjoyed doing this in-depth tutorial series so much that I'm planning to do another one, and you guys don't have to wait long for that first episode to come out because it is coming out tomorrow. And it is going to be focused around setting up a low-tech Iwagumi aquascape. And I want to get you guys involved in a similar way. I think we're going to be choosing the schooling fish together for it whenever we get to that point in a few episodes down the road. And when that episode is out, if you're watching this video in the future or even tomorrow, I will put a link somewhere, maybe in the end card or in a card at the top of the screen, so you guys can find it super easily. But big thanks again to those of you who are involved in choosing the fish for this aquarium. I think that we made a great decision. And if you want to be involved in choosing the fish for the next tutorial series, the low-tech Iwagumi, make sure that you are subscribed so that you can see when that comes out and you can follow along with the polls and everything that I put out along the way. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you. Hopefully this series inspired you to do something similar or maybe gave you inspiration for projects that you're currently working on. If it did, let me know down in the comments. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.